Hi, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to a very special edition of Sipping Off the Cuff. I'm Mike Morales here in a little gloomy Southern California, ready for more rain. That gentleman out there is.
Eric Zandona in Florida's Emerald Coast.
Are you sweltering out there, Eric? Are you over the snow now? Are you back to normal out there?
Not, it's in the 60s now. It's, temperate. It's not
Okay.
hot, not cold yet. So,
Oh, well, good, because we just
yeah.
got rain and we're going to get some more rain and it's windy. Oh, here it comes. You can see it right now. Um, I'm excited. If you folks have been watching us for a while, you know that Eric is not only one of the founding members of the ADI, American Distilling Institute, but he's also one of our TJs. I learned so much with him, and we kind of riff off back and forth. And I love to throw this guy the kitchen sink. Okay, and you guys know that celebratory sotols and mezcals and bacanoras and anything
hmm
weird and strange and if I can, otherwise, normally all that weird and strange stuff goes into the UK. So then it's me and Felipe doing, like
Yeah.
rum from, somewhere, and then a goddess spirit from like the Black Forest, which we've done before. This one, yes, this one is from Venezuela. Verdor Cocuy.
There we go.
Look at the packaging on that. Just show the box.
Yeah, it's great.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I told Eric we did they're calling this one a reposado, but they call
Yes.
the unaged version a claro. Okay, another
hmm
word for blanco, another word for clear. You know what I mean? Clear is my
Yeah.
favorite word. My favorite color is clear.
Yeah,
So
you can see, get my camera into focus. So this is their first batch that they were able to send us. So it's not quite focusing, but this is A1. So we're very, very lucky to get this.
yeah, apparently there is an similar to we were talking off camera, and Eric told me that for ADI they get a lot of submissions from Asia through a company who's based in LA, but jo whose job it is to bring in products from Asian countries and promote them and submit them to contests. And
Yeah,
ADI is one of the more respected, besides of course the brands of promise, and one of the more respected, you know,
that's right.
uh, well, look, we only do agave spirits, folks. I mean, ADI
Yeah,
does it all. That's why Eric has
yeah,
such a wide palette, which is why I threw this at him. But I was told by mentors, by people that in the that Kukui is the best agave spirit in the world. Okay. And if you're not sure about how it got here and all that, we cover a lot of the geopolitical stuff in the Clado review. So please go watch that because we cover a
yeah.
lot of that ground there. But this one is a reposado, and I'm excited. I broke the seal off can.
Yes.
It's beautiful packaging. It's gorgeous.
hmm
And I was told originally that these normally are made at a higher ABV. This one's coming in at 80 proof. I thought it was
Yeah,
going to be dumbed down for the American palate or for whatever palate or the Canadian palate, maybe,
yeah,
maybe. Um, so I'm using a handy dandy Glencairn, and so is Eric.
yeah.
Um, they had some beautiful legs and tears. Um,
Accidentally poured a little much on this one, but that's all right.
that's okay.
This is the end of my workday.
Yeah, he's a remember, we are professionals. Do not attempt this at home. Do not pass go. Do not get $200.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn how to taste like a catador, how to taste tequila, you will be able to do that very shortly.
hmm
Our consumer catador course, the revised, the reloaded edition, with lots more information, considering it's been a very monumental week and it's only Thursday. So what are we looking at now? This is a nice golden color.
Yeah.
Explain, tell people what it's aged in. I want you to tell us that.
So from the sales sheet that I found online, it says that it's aged between 5 and 8 months in Canadian barrels, Canadian oak. What does it say? Canadian oak. Yeah, which is unusual
I
in
told
the
Eric,
world of spirits.
right. I told Eric I've only had one tequila that was aged in Canadian oak barrels, and it does
Oh,
add a different flavor than the American oak barrels
yeah,
hold whiskey and bourbon. Because
yeah,
most of the time those are used barrels. I
right.
I would imagine these are not. it doesn't say Canadian whiskey barrels, right?
It
Maybe.
doesn't say Canadian whiskey, though it's possible, given the color, I would say it's either an uncharred, so maybe just like a toasted barrel, or or a used Canadian whiskey barrel. So given that, 5 to 8 months, that would kind of put it in the realm. The aroma is very light on the wood that you get a lot of the same character as you do in the Claro.
Uh-huh.
But there's this added little dimension that it definitely you can notice coming from the wood and but it's very soft. So I could say, I don't know, we'll see if I notice anything on the palate, but right now it could kind of go either way, either unused, maybe toasted barrel or a used, whiskey barrel.
Well, you would think that I will say that the wood is adding a little bit more body and structure to the legs and tears, uh,
Yeah,
just a little bit, because the legs
yeah,
and tears on this one were phenomenal. They weren't
yeah,
thick; they were just beautiful, and they clung
yeah.
to very like a thin line to streaming like Netflix, as I like to say. But normally, when you add wood to the mix, it'll give you a little bit thicker legs and tears, and it is doing that. It is doing that
Hmm.
slightly, not a whole lot. You're right, not a whole lot. It's not adding too much. I don't even know. In tequila, when we say stuff like that, was always rounding out the edges, and stuff like that. But I'm
Right.
not sure this is what it's going to do. This is like adding another layer of complexity.
Yeah, I would say so. Like with the Claro, for me, I got a pretty distinct, like lactic kind of yogurty
Yes.
aroma. There's a little bit of that, but I think the oxidation has really kind of transformed it more into like ripe banana or plantain rather
Yeah.
than yogurt. So it's
Yep.
not quite as sharp. It's a little bit more round. Still got a lot of nice sweetness there. There's some citrus character. Just smells really beautiful.
Yeah, and it's at the bottom of the glass too, right here. It's where it's lingering
Yeah.
and adding, because that's where the malolactic was down here at this side of the glass, and
Yeah.
you can tilt it either way and you'll get it. Glencairn's really one of the better tools you can use for any spirit
Yeah.
at this point. We can say that we've used them for just about everything, yeah, not just whiskey.
Oh, the other thing too, I would say in this one, rather than lime, I'm getting more of like bitter orange, like curacao.
That's what I was getting. There's a bitterness,
Yeah.
but it's not quite coffee or tobacco or leather. It's
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
it's something else.
Yeah. So, and which isn't surprising, Curacao is a little island off the coast of Venezuela. So that those citrus trees live in that region.
Oh yeah.
So wouldn't surprise me if they have some either those citrus trees or something like that in the region where these agaves are growing.
If I remember the map correctly, the reason I said this in the Colorado review, the only way to get to Venezuela, you'd have to and I described that in the book. My book here, which will be available shortly, we're going to revise this book for a couple of reasons. It's called Agave Spirits Around the World. And check out the Colorado review. I did go into the geopolitical
Hmm.
situation because every country, every agave spirit, you have to go back into the politics of the whole country to understand how we got to this point. Okay, so
Yeah.
and how it finally gets to us as a country or as a consumer. And I think the only way to get to that portion where the original factory and producers of Cucuy, of course, Venezuela has a lot of tropical area. It's all tropical, but I think these factories and these farms are closer to the shore. They're closer to the ocean, which makes more sense to me
Mm.
because off camera, I told Eric, you know what this reminds me of? Ricea.
Yeah.
Ricea costeña. Some of the riceas are made near the coast, and
Hmm.
that ricea is a little bit different flavor than the ricea closer to Jalisco or closer to
Right.
Tequila, that area, more inland. And
Yeah.
this, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot more. That's why I said tropical fruits that you're afraid to use in tequila or mezcal.
Right.
Go mango, go tangerine, go, stuff that
Hmm.
you've never heard of before. You can.
Yeah.
Um, I want to dive in. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's taste it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Is it just me or did it pick up a lot more sweetness from the wood?
There's sweetness, but there's some tannins there that are, I think, amplifying the heat of the spirit a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit more chewiness to it in the body. There's definitely that layer of oak there. It's not super in your face like you would get with a bourbon.
Yeah.
But it's there. It really nicely layering on top of things. You get this layer of oak, but also the oxidation that you get from it resting in the barrel. So like the underlying claro flavors are developing with the oxygen exposure. Really nice stuff. Yeah, really, really nice.
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
This is, you know, I can't even say that it's rounding out the edges because it wasn't like the Claro
right,
was really aggressive. It was flavorful. I can't even say that Claro was bold. You know, some tequilas are bold, you know, at higher ABV.
right, right.
Styles are bold. Um, this one is just really
Yeah,
well balanced. It's almost like you
yeah.
can't fail if you do it. If you distill it correctly, you can't mess it up.
hmm
You know?
I'm getting this real nice, like tart tangerine on the back end of my palate. And then like there's some sweetness along the edge that's more like kind of a marmalade. It's really just got layers. It's so complex. It's really beautiful stuff. So I say Brand of Promise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you know we're gonna have all kinds of people, all kinds of you know companies out of Venezuela coming to submit to us,
Yeah.
submit to me. Um, and great finish.
hmm
Again, no smokiness. If you're gonna, if you it's almost like you know, there are characteristics of Ricea that do have an underlying layer of smoke. You know,
hmm
the more passes you have, you'll eventually coat your palate like a mezcal would, a good mezcal.
Yeah.
This one has no smoke in it at all.
No, there's you get the fiber contact
Yes.
during the fermentation. You definitely get that. So there's a earthy kind of body that it has in there. But then that plays really nicely with the oak underneath it. Really just excellently made. And at, like I said, for the Claro, my initial thought was like, oh, at 40%, maybe they're dumbing it down. There's so much here. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah, I don't even know. Okay, and I know I discussed this right before we signed off on the Claro. Cocktails.
Yeah.
Is it, I mean, would you, this is so beautiful that it's almost like you don't want to put it in a cocktail, but you could. It's just it,
Yeah.
you know, and the funny thing is we started thinking about other cocktails made with other spirits, you know, instead of I can't even say this is like a rum. I can't say it's a mezcal. I can't say it's a bacamara.
hmm
You know, even though those are all made with agave,
Yeah.
so is this. But didn't they have a recipe on their website? They had you mentioned it. Really
Yeah.
unusual um drink.
Yeah. So they call it a funky kukui. So it's with kukui, pineapple juice, lemon juice, agave syrup, and then an egg white for texture. So it gets this nice little white foam on the top of it. Most likely shaken and then poured over ice. It looks really great. Looks really, really tasty. Oh, they suggest a Negroni, which is what I had mentioned
There you go. There you go.
for for the Claro. And then they have basically a margarita, basically a
Uh-huh.
version with this. I think the thing that would be nice for this, you could definitely use it as like a base for an old fashioned. I think the bitters with a little bit of sugar and then the complexity that you're getting for this could really have some really nice play together. But I also think you could easily use this in some like tiki cocktails where you're pairing it with like more flavors like passion fruit or
Yes.
like banana liqueur, things like that. I
That's
think
what I
would
said.
really
I
work.
said that in the Claro that you know,
Yeah,
of course we're tequila aficionado, and most
right.
of the time it's you know about agave spirits. But very often we're very fortunate to get submissions from, we've had tequila or we've had tekiwi from New Zealand and we've had, South African.
Kiwi.
Yeah, it's called
That's
tekiwi.
a great name.
Oh, but yeah, it's a small distillery in New Zealand. In fact, go check it out on a. You don't watch us. What's up with you, Eric? Eric is such a his ego is just big, man.
No, no,
He just listens to himself. He goes,
I'm
"Oh, just watch me.
swamped. I'm
I'm
swamped
doing
with
my
work.
best."
That's what it is.
I know it's true. No, but Felipe and I got samples of the spirit, the growing blue agave in New Zealand. The
Yeah,
area is so fertile that they had to remove the topsoil to stress the plants.
right.
And then the distillery is built, the water source is an underground glacier river. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
water coming down.
Only in New Zealand.
I know, right? It's beautiful. And
Yeah.
and so the spirit's very, and of course the distillery is near the ocean as well. So there's a lot of that going on.
Uh-huh.
And then and then it was very light and breezy and it would make a great martini because it was like too
Oh yeah.
high. It was almost like it was like an afternoon on the ocean. And no matter
Mm,
what you did to try to stress the plant's root system just went down further and
right.
um
Right.
but it was very different because of the water source. I'd love to know what the water source is for this. Um
Yeah,
I,
I remember, didn't you say that they're in the mountains? So
this one says it's in
they
the mountain, so maybe it's I don't
a
want to say
well or mountain spring,
mountain
something.
spring. Could be spring water. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um My God. And then off camera, I said, and I told Eric this, I said, I've only had one tequila that was aged in Canadian oak barrels. And so
Hmm.
Eric brought this up. I think you want to repeat that we were talking about geopolitical, because in order to understand how these spirits got to us at this point, you have to go back into the politics of the country to
Right.
realize, to understand how this came about. And so go ahead and tell everybody.
Yeah, well, so, most of the world uses used American whiskey barrels for aging their spirits. It's Japan, Scotland, Ireland, everywhere, right? The main reason for that is because we produce so much whiskey and most of it can only be used the barrel once. But the US and Venezuela do not have a good trading relationship. And so my guess is they don't have access to used American whiskey barrels. And so they're going to go somewhere else. And who else has a lot of whiskey barrels? Canada. So they're in the same hemisphere, in the same, part of the world, in the, American continents. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
It makes sense
But
to me. It
yeah,
makes sense to me. I mean, Canadians
yeah,
can vacation in Cuba. They can smoke Cuban cigars. We can't.
right.
We can't do both.
Oh, one other thing that just kind of came to my mind, one of the benefits of Canadian oak is that it grows in a colder environment, right? Canada's
Exactly.
much
So so
colder.
so it's much tighter, correct?
The grain is much tighter. So
Yes. Yes.
using it in a tropical or subtropical climate like Venezuela would actually be beneficial because you're going to actually minimize the penetration of the spirit into the oak. So you get less of that extraction of the oak flavors and more of the oxidation characteristics because of that tighter grain structure. So there is a benefit to them. And I think it shows in the spirit that you get this really great integration of both. The oak doesn't overpower the spirit. And that's one of the challenges, right, that we talk about so often with aged tequila or aged mezcal, is that the wood can sometimes take over, and they're just like, okay, well, what's the point here? It doesn't taste like agave anymore.
Right.
But here they did a really good job, and in this instance where maybe there's that barrier for American whiskey barrels is actually a benefit for them because it works better in their climate.
Well, yeah, because and you just brought that up, and I thought to myself, wonder what this would be like. Number one, at a higher ABV, at the more traditional ABV.
Hmm. Yeah.
And they are in their description of their information, and from what Eric said on their website, go check out their website.
Hmm.
What's the URL for their website? I forget right now.
Verdorcocuy.com.
Okay, go check it out and check out their stills, because I did say that I forgot to mention this in the Colado review, but it reminds me of the of Raicilla.
Hmm.
Raicilla more toward the coast, costeña Raicilla, because those plants are a little bit different. They acquire, they're off the
Right.
ocean. I think that's the thing with Bacanora too, is that, the agave, has that ocean exposure to it, the ocean air, which and all that makes a difference as well, even in the fermentation process as well.
Yeah.
So, and this being a tropical climate, you can imagine that all those producers, the official producers, and I read all that. I'm not going to read it again. Go check out the Colado review. I go into
Hmm.
where all these producers are. You know, I would imagine the microclimate in each one of those little factories is so different that
Right.
each of the varieties that come out of there are different. And it
Yeah.
wouldn't even surprise me if this was uh, a co-op. There is one
Mm.
Maestro Cucuyero. That's what they call him, Cucuyero.
Right.
Um, and I thought to myself, what would happen if they put this in a French oak barrel?
Mm.
It would get
Hmm.
lost, or do you think it would? Because especially French oak has got some really serious um, uh,
Yeah,
fat
the
notes.
tannin structure for French oak is different. It tends to be more open. You get a more kind of wide tannin feel across the palate. So yeah, I mean, in the right hands, you could make it work, right? But I think what they're doing right now, excellent.
Yeah, don't mess it up. Leave it alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, and this is only my only pour. As I go down further and further, I'm getting more and more different
Mhm.
notes on what's left. It's
Hmm.
a spit that's left, and yeah, and it's got some great notes that are still coming out. Now it's turning into
Hmm.
like more of what I'm used to. By the way, Venezuela does make cigars, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
So I would imagine that this would be great with a cigar. And it
Oh
would
yeah.
you have to get and not even a Cuban cigar. I think I would go Dominican. I'd go a little bit bolder. What
Mm.
do you think?
Yeah, to me, I was getting this like note almost reminds me of more of like Connecticut wrapper
Well,
on
yeah, on a
the
full glass.
aroma.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So anyway, to me, I think I would tend to go maybe a little bit lighter.
Okay.
I think it would stand up definitely to maybe like a natural wrapper, something a little bit more robust. But I think it's like a good, Connecticut, maybe a Davidoff would be like really nice to just,
Oh, now you're talking my language.
yeah. Something just like really elegant and like I think in terms of compliments, I think that would work
And
nice.
that's the word. If I had to sum this all up in one word, it would be elegant. And
Yeah.
I said this about the raicillas that Alex and I were very fortunate to have tasted. They were, the master distiller it looks like, he looks like a moonshiner. You know what I mean? He's dressed like a moonshiner out in the middle of nowhere. But the spirit itself at a much higher ABV, folks,
Right.
is very elegant. And
Yeah.
I think that's the word that I'm going to use for this. This is a very elegant spirit.
Right.
And it will st if you have access to Cuban cigars, hint hint, just write us here at Tequila Aficionado, and I'll make sure Eric and I taste this with a Cuban cigar, which we
Right.
have. We've broken bread together, and we have had
Yeah.
the fort. We've been fortunate to have friends with Cuban cigars. You're right.
Hmm.
This is stand up to a really nice Cuban though. And
Yeah.
since the two of those countries obviously trade together, so
Yep. Yeah.
um, outstanding. But I can't.
Yes, for
Do we
sure.
have a price point for this thing?
Yeah, it's coming in online on their website, so other locations might be different at 99.99, so $100.
For this kind of quality?
Yeah.
You know that their ability to mass produce is untapped. It's
Yeah.
untapped. I mean,
Yeah.
they are from what the information I have when I wrote the book, Agave Spirits Around the World. Let me show you the cover just in case, because we're going to change all that around. I have to actually add one more country. Israel is now in the mix, and when I wrote this book, they were not, but they are now.
Right.
and they're about ready, I believe, fall of 2025 this year. Tequila Aficionado will be involved in tasting the first exportation from Israel to the United States.
Very
Uh,
nice.
yeah, and this is aged. This will be aged in well, there'll be a Blanco as well, but they're aging it in Israeli wine barrels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'll make sure that our group that's interested
Yeah,
will be able to get samples because I am personally involved in that particular project. But it is a country with that also has again, I have to go back into the geopolitical history to find out how did it get to this point, right?
right.
But to my knowledge, they when, referring back to Kukui, they they do come out with fruit flavored versions for the public.
Hmm.
That's how they sell
Right,
it. It's at a much higher ABV. And I never finished my thought on when Eric and I started thinking about what cocktails this will go in. And of course, we're thinking tequila cocktails, but you literally can open the front door and
right.
go and like you said, tiki cocktails
Yeah,
all day long, all day.
yeah,
Instead,
yeah.
and maybe this would be even better suited for those tiki cocktails than a mezcal or a tequila, because
Right.
that's what's going on now. You know, I would say this one's better suited. I said, let's try a mojito. Let's try,
Yeah,
anything you could, a gin and tonic, ranch water. You know what I mean?
right.
This is it's an amazing spirit for the price. They're not mass producing it yet. I don't know what their capability is. The gentleman who on their Instagram, go check him out. I don't know what his role is in he's demoing this particular product mostly. You said it was mostly in Miami.
Yeah, all the
Florida.
retail locations are in the Miami, Boca Raton area of South Florida right now. Though there it says they're soon to be in Total Wine in Florida. So then that'll expand them throughout the state.
Yeah. So look for Verdor. I gotta really. That's not even Spanish as far as I know. It says
Yeah,
Verdor Cocuy,
yeah,
and it is a real strain of agave. And we give you the name on the box there.
yeah,
Lovely. It is lovely, and
yeah. Really great.
the price point, and look at the bottle. Look at the branding on
I
this.
know.
It's gorgeous. That and this reminds me of the box reminds me of the old 1942 boxes that used to
Hmm.
they were first rolling out Don Julio 1942. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
What can I say? Brand of Promise nominee in the Kukui category.
definitely.
And that's our take, folks. If you have had it, if you're watching us on YouTube, please leave us a comment, leave us a drink comment. Tell us what you're doing with it. What cocktails are you making? Give us a recipe, man. Um, Subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it with your other compatriots from Venezuela, and whatever you do, folks, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.